I recently found out that my older sister is actually my biological mother. My older sister, let's call her Rose, and I have a great relationship since I was a baby. We were raised with an amazing adoptive family and she has always taken care of me. I grew up in a very warm and loving environment, but from what I was told, I was lucky. I was told the story of how me and my sister had two drug addict parents who never took care of us. They never bothered feeding us and used to left us at a junkie friend's house for days to go out partying. When my mom was pregnant with me, she smoked and got drunk pretty often, and when I was born, my sister was the only one who took care of me. When I was 2 months old, they left us both in a mall and left. We got help from an old couple, who also turned into our adoptive family, and we contacted the police, but my parents weren't at the house, which looked like a homeless cave. We never saw them again, and after several months in foster care, the couple that helped us throughout the whole way agreed to adopt us. Today I'm 19 and Rose is 34. I still live with my adoptive family and she lives about 20 minutes away, so I come and visit her at least 3 to 4 times a week. So a couple of months ago, my friend offered me to take a DNA test to find some information about my heritage, since my sister wouldn't speak of them much. After the results came and I found out some pretty interesting things. I found out later that I had an aunt that was 33 in the system. I immediately reached out to her, let's call her Janet, and we agreed to meet in person. All that without telling Rose a thing. When we met up, I could see we have some similar characteristics like same hair color and same eyes. We tried to figure things out, so I asked her if she has a brother or sister, and she told me that when she was 13, her 14-year-old sister got pregnant while being drunk with her junkie boyfriend, and a month after giving birth she ran away with the baby after some pretty intensive fights with their parents. They never found her and stopped looking after 1.5 years. I connected the dots, asked to see a picture of her, so we went to her parents' house. Mom wasn't home and father died 3 years ago. When I saw the picture, I knew. This was Rose, 100%. Rose is my mom. We were never abandoned, we didn't have junkie parents, and she fabricated the entire thing to me and our adoptive family. I immediately gave Janet a hug and told her that it's too much for me right now and asked her to keep it a secret for now. I went to my best friend's house, told him everything, and for a week now I'm sleeping over at his place. I told my parents and my sister I'm at his house because he bought a new game that we both wanted for long and avoided talking to Rose much. I can't look her in the eyes right now, let alone tell her I know the truth. What the hell am I supposed to do? How should I handle this? Should I tell her I know? Am I the a-hole for suing my parents for my college money? My great-aunt set up savings accounts for all of her female relatives. In our culture, education for women is not really valued, and she thought that was bullshit. She lived with her father in London, where she was educated. She went on to attend university and became a doctor. She married a British man, they moved to America and had a great life. She funded the education of as many of her nieces and grandnieces as she could. When she passed away, she left money for every girl relative she could. My parents managed to access the accounts that were set up for my sister and I. They used it to pay for my brother's wedding. My sister didn't care because she got married 2 years out of high school and had no intention of going to college. When I graduated, I went to the bank to get money for school and it was almost all gone. There was like $13,000 left. I asked my parents about it and they said they had needed the money. I finally found out where the money went. I got furious. I got student loans and moved out. I am a great source of shame to them and I don't give two fucks. I am currently suing them for the money that was left for me. My entire family is against me. They all think I am a complete a-hole for airing private family business in public. And that I am putting money ahead of family. My friends are all on my side, but they are all Americans and don't really get my culture. Neither do I, to be honest. My brother called me up and offered to pay for my university if I dropped the lawsuit. I agreed as long as we had a legally binding contract. He said I was being an asshole for not trusting him. I said he should not have accepted my money for his wedding. It is causing all kinds of embarrassment in our community. I am somewhat ashamed to be doing this, but I don't want to have this debt I should not have. What's a company secret you can share now that you don't work there? Diet Sprite and Sprite Zero were the exact same thing. They didn't change the recipe one bit. They just changed the name and design. Health insurance, dude. When you file a claim, it is often denied because they're counting on you not escalating it. Once you do, your case goes to a medical management group, which ought to be called the We Don't Want to Pay group. Keep escalating and involve your doctor. Fight for the insurance you paid for. I used to work in college admissions. Rich donors, athletes, and other VIPs have lower admission criteria. They still have minimums, but they're super easy to reach, even for a selective university. In the case of the university I worked for, BYU, children of General Church authorities also got this. I worked for a major hotel chain in housekeeping for over 10 years. The number of sewer slides and people who die naturally in their rooms is a lot higher than you'd think. I worked at a huge convention hotel with over 1,000 rooms and it happened quite often. Unless it was a pretty gnarly mess, it would just get cleaned like normal and the next guest had no idea. If you were on live chat with customer care, I could see what you were typing before pressing send. I watched people work through grotesque, racist, sexist statements, fraudulent lies and mistruths, meticulous grammar fixes, and their whole range of emotions in real time before deleting and typing OK. Women of Reddit, what was something you didn't know about men till you got with one? How rarely they get complimented. I told my guy that I loved his shirt and he didn't even know what to say. He told me he couldn't remember the last time someone complimented him, so I've started looking for little, random things to compliment him on. Morningwood. Had absolutely no idea that shit just pops up every night till I started dating my first boyfriend. That whole thing about the weight of their heart being their stomach? Accurate. I once hooked up with a guy I met on Tinder, made him breakfast the next morning. He said no woman had ever cooked for him before, looked teary, and now we're married. That the ball sack physically moves around and you can see when it gets looser or tightens. It's super fascinating to look at, you can also feel it. And the man can't control it. My ex-wife was shocked at how short a phone conversation can be for dudes. My best friend called me once. This man literally flew across the country once to be at our wedding, called me because he was bringing me to work the next day. Still need a ride? Yep. Okay, I'll be there at 5:30. Sounds good. And that was it. She sat there astonished and was asking why didn't we want to talk to each other? I really had no good answers either, it's just the way she goes, I guess. My boyfriend has fallen for my best friend. A little backstory, this year will be mine and my boyfriend's 8-year anniversary. We live together, and we planned on getting engaged soon. Before we were dating we were, and still are, in the same friend group, and so is my best friend. They've been friends for ages as well. They hang out sometimes as well, going to the cinema to watch specific movies I'm not interested in, or watching football together, but most of the time we'll hang out with our entire friend group at one of our homes, eating dinner together or having drinks. For a few months now my boyfriend has been acting kind of strange, and after multiple times of me asking him if everything's alright, he finally sat me down to talk. He told me he has fallen for my best friend, and that he doesn't know what to do. He says he's still very much in love with me, and he's sure it's just a crush that'll pass. He even considered not telling me and just waiting it out, but he says it's been 4 months now and it's not over. When he told me this it felt like my heart stopped, and the ground got knocked down under my feet. I'm sure my best friend has no idea this is going on, and he's assured me nothing has happened between them. I believe him, as she's engaged to her boyfriend of 4 years and seems perfectly happy, and I trust her with my life. I honestly don't know what to do, and neither does he. I don't know if I want to continue this relationship, when he's got a crush on another girl, and not just any girl. The worst part is, I can see why it happened. They've got similar interests, specifically interests that I don't share. They both have a parent that passed away due to disease, and they have really good talks about their situations, and generally she's just a really nice and beautiful person. I don't blame her, but since he's told me I can't help but feel jealous and bitter. He doesn't want to tell her about this, as to not mess up the friendship and the dynamic in the group. My boyfriend and her fiancé are really good friends as well, but I feel like I would need to tell her. Especially if we end up breaking up over this. I just don't know what to do. Any advice is welcome. Should we continue this relationship? Do you think it's worth it to try and get over this? And should we tell her about his feelings? Please help. My boyfriend took the side of the man who spiked my drink. What do I do? I've been with my boyfriend for around 9 months and last night we went to a gig for the first time together alongside 2 older family friends of mine who are a couple. I'm not a big fan of alcohol. I will drink but in moderation, and I'd already had a few drinks that evening and made it very clear to all 3 that I didn't want to drink anymore. I agreed to go out to a club with them all after the gig to have fun. I said that I needed to be home for around 2 a.m. because I have my last university entrance exam on the Wednesday. This was a Saturday and I wanted to study the following day, and didn't want to be tired. Despite me making the fact I wanted to leave earlier and that I didn't want to drink anymore the whole evening, they kept buying me drinks and trying to guilt me into drinking them. I refused, and refused to walk me out to wait for a taxi. The club was in a dodgy area and as a young girl I was too scared to go outside and wait alone, and there was no signal in the club. Then when I returned from the bathroom my boyfriend and my male family friend laughed to each other, handed me a glass of Coke. When I tried it, it was obviously alcoholic and contained a fairly high amount of vodka. Obviously I was upset about them both lying to me, but the next morning when I mentioned this to my boyfriend he stood up for my family friends and said that they were just trying to make me have fun. They all said that when I went to university I would be the weirdo that doesn't drink, when I do just not enough to get drunk, and that no one would want to be my friend. I don't know if they are right because I don't know what is normal. I just know I don't find the idea of being drunk and I now feel betrayed. I don't know if this is enough to warrant a breakup, but even when I tried to explain how much it hurt me he kept telling me I was overreacting and trying to flip it onto me and how I can't say anything because I'm never on his side, and refusing to elaborate when I ask him what he means. What should I do? What did you do on the day you were released from prison? Didn't have anyone to pick me up, but I had myself and $168. So when they turned me loose I grabbed my little duffel bag and hitchhiked to Denver to see an old friend of many years. Lost touch with him while I was locked up. Turns out he committed sewer slide a few months before. Family turned against me, so I found a job and stayed at the mission for a while. Got me a little apartment and a part-time job to go along with a day job. Was doing pretty good. Got by on little and saved money. Met a good woman who loves me and me her. First baby is coming in July. Looking forward, never backward. My husband served 5 years before we were married. After leaving the prison grounds and being driven some distance away, as his driver's license had expired while he was inside, he didn't drive, he posed for a picture in an open field where you could see the prison in the distance. On the ride home, he ate cantaloupe with a real fork as opposed to plastic for the first time in 6 years. Once home, he had his favorite steak dinner with corn on the cob. That first day home was kind of low-key, as he wanted it. He says that after years of being surrounded by chaos and violence, it felt weird and unsettling to be in a private home where it was so quiet and there weren't people everywhere. Also, sleeping was hard. He didn't sleep well for about 3 months after he got out. I guess years of sleeping with noise all the time, it's never quiet in prison, evidently, makes it difficult to sleep in quiet. What's the most disturbing secret you've discovered about someone close to you? She was my best friend of 7 years, we had literally been through it all together. I moved out of state with my now husband, but she convinced us both to move back to be closer with her, after about a year. We had no real ties to the state we had tried out, so we said screw it, let's go back, she's basically family. We were all so happy to be reunited. She was over almost every night for dinner, we all laughed and talked and had a blast. Best year of my life. Then slowly, she started trying to turn my husband and I against each other. Anytime we had an argument, like any couple does, she would text each of us about how right we were, trying to foster animosity between the two of us. With me, she started talking about how she had a plan B for us, that if my husband and I couldn't make it work, I could move in with her and we'd live happy lives together. With my husband, she started talking about her infertility issues and how she wanted to have a kid just like him, she just needed a sperm donor. This all happened at around the same time, and my husband and I compared texts and figured it out. She wanted to take his sperm, and have a baby with me. When confronted about it, she refused to admit anything and started lashing out at both of us. It got to the point where she would show up unannounced, banging on the door, demanding a place in our home. It was so terrifying and panic-inducing that we ended up having to move and change our phone numbers. I guess it's so disturbing because I had never had a friend like her, only to find out that she cared about me, but in such an unhealthy and scary way. But yeah, that's my story. Husband and I are great now, by the way. What screams this person peaked in high school to you? I had a conversation in a bar with a drinking buddy years ago. The guy kept going on about the one that got away. How perfect she was and their chemistry together, how natural it was, how he hasn't felt that way about any girl since, yada yada. He was feeling pretty sorry for himself and uninterested in meeting anyone else because they could never compare. When I asked how long ago it was that she moved away, he said 8th grade. I graduated in 2005. I was sitting at a tire shop waiting for my truck to get done and an employee slightly older than me walks up to me and asks me, with no previous interaction, if I played football in high school. Wondering where this was going, I responded that I did, but I wasn't great at it. He asked what school I went to, and I told him. Then he starts talking about himself. How he was all conference and walking me through all of his high school accolades. I never asked for this conversation. I just sat there wondering why this nearly 40-year-old, wildly out of shape, tire shop supervisor was telling me all of this. Then just as soon as it started, he bid me good day and walked off. It was bizarre. The best comparison I could make was that he was like the manager Dan from the movie Waiting. That was his vibe. That's how I knew he peaked in high school.